Let's look at some more antique books. All right. What do we have here? Roget's Thesaurus of the English Language in dictionary form. Garden City Publishing Company. Garden City. Is that New Jersey? Raymond Hill. Oh, it's in New York. 1936. Wow, this book came out the year Carl Taylor died. 36 turns up again and again in my research. Roget's Thesaurus of the English Language in dictionary form. Being a presentation of Roget's Thesaurus of English words and phrases in a modernized, more complete, and more convenient dictionary form, together with briefer synonyms, synonymies for the busy writer, the whole comprised in one alphabetical arrangement. I know this is old, but maybe I should keep this with the writing books. 1931 book. Both the plan of this book and the application of the dictionary idea to Roget's Thesaurus are original and must not be imitated. Patent applied for. Wow. Oh, Wellesley. Once slept on the golf course of their college. My hiking group went through there. And the sprinklers went off. Book. 1. Nouns. Book, volume, tome, writing, work, publication, production, lucubration. That's a new one to me. Codex, treatise, monograph, brochure, pamphlet, booklet, tract. Tractate, essay, dissertation, libretto, handbook, manual, textbook, novel, folio, quarto, octavo, duodecimo, magazine, periodical. Rare books, first editions, early editions, incunabula. Books printed in the 15th century, they're called incunabula? What? I've never heard that word. Early printing press books, I guess. Part, issue, number, livraison, serial, album, portfolio, chapter, division, section, article, paragraph, passage, clause, reference book. Oh, it goes on, gets specific. That's cool. It's a pretty cool book. Should it be with the writing books and getting used once in a while? It's in good enough shape to use. I'm going to think about that one. Again, all these antique ones are for sale if anyone wants to help me get rid of some of these. Oh, this book looks way cool. Textbook of General Botany. Holman and Roberts, 4th edition. John Wiley and Sons. Whoa. This book is a part of the library of The True University is a collection of books. Carlisle. What a great... Oh, that's got to be one of the quotes of this channel. The True University is a collection of books. Carlisle. Wow. Someone was practicing their penmanship with that phrase. The True University is a collection of books. The True... Wow. Maybe back in the late 30s. This would be a good book to track down all the names on it and put a history together. I want this as like a poster, a giant poster, in a redwood forest. Still never had that experience. I've seen individual redwoods. When I went to visit my sibling in Oakland, there was a giant one in a park, and I couldn't believe it. But I want to see a whole forest of them. What's this say? Something mere... There's names all over this book I could track down. The untimely death of the senior author, Dr. Richard M. Holmes, occurred shortly after the issuance of the 3rd edition. Even these old, dusty books have big dramas around them that have just been forgotten to our time. Okay, this is an 11th printing, though, a 1946 edition. Still old. 46? World War II had been over 1 year. Still, I'm surprised this is so relatively recent. Gives me real turn-of-the-century vibes. Wow. Neat. Every drawing in here could be a great screen-printed t-shirt. A little marked up. But some old books, the marginalia becomes part of the charm, part of the history. Species are composed of individual plants. Genera are composed of species. Families are collections of genera. Orders are collections of families. Classes are collections of orders. Divisions are collections of classes. Subkingdoms are composed of divisions. The plant kingdom has 2 subkingdoms. Whoa. Powdery mildew on willow. Willow, we must protect you from the powdery mildew. Willow's my daughter's name. Cool to have. Now, this is a really cool one to have. This is Charles Lindbergh's book that he wrote right after he got back from flying across the ocean in 1927. Until recently, there was still a diner downtown called Lindy's named after that. Back when everyone was naming everything after him because they were so excited. Guy flew across the ocean! But the reason I hold on to this book, well, I mean, it's cool. Wow, there's a wallpaper. Ugh, horrible binding. This thing needs fixed. C. Harold Bloomquist. Wonder who that was. Him and his airplane. By Charles A. Lindbergh, the famous flyer's own story of his life and his transatlantic flight, together with his views on the future of aviation. The foreword by Myron T. Herrick, U.S. Ambassador to France. 1927. This came out the year of that flight. That's incredible. First, second, and third impression, 1927. Dedicated to my mother. In A. Scott Berg's book, Lindbergh, he says that when they had a parade for him, so many phone books were shredded to make confetti to rain down on him that they had to reprint the phone book that year. Speaking of phone books, I picked one up today. It's on the bottom there. They still exist. Crazy. But what really intrigues me about this book is that there's two accounts by him at different times in his life. The one on the right is the more famous one, The Spirit of St. Louis, probably heavily co-written by Anne Morrow Lindbergh, his wife. And I just always thought it'd be really interesting to read these two together and think about memory and how it affects events and transforms them over deep time. Because these two books are very different, supposedly. The first one kind of emphasizes an almost, well, no, it's more like journalistic, reportorial. And I hear this one on the right, Spirit of St. Louis, which won the Pulitzer. It has a great wraparound cover. Look at that beautiful book. Anyway, this one gets more dreamy and thoughtful and so on. This book is illustrated. I had to buy this one through the mail. This is not an easy to find book. This is an eBay purchase. It is not in great shape. But, ow is a sympathetic one for the book. Here's how this one starts. I was born in Detroit, Michigan on February 4th, 1902. My father was practicing law in Little Falls, Minnesota at the time. When I was less than 2 months old, my parents took me to their farm on the western banks of the Mississippi River, 2 miles south of Little Falls. Look at this one. Night already shadows the eastern sky. To my left, low on the horizon, the thin line of cloud is drawing on its evening sheath of black. A moment ago it was burning red and gold. I look down over the side of my cockpit at the farmlands of central Illinois. Wheat shocks are gone from the fields. Close parallel lines of the cedar across a harrowed strip show where winter planting has begun. A threshing crew on the farm below is quitting work for the day. Several men look up and wave as my mail plane roars overhead. Trees and buildings and stacks of grain stand shadowless in the diffused light of evening. In a few minutes it will be dark, and I'm still south of Peoria. Whoa, is this written in present tense? Interesting. I'm really confused. Looking at the last chapters of We by Charles Lindbergh, it appears to switch to third person. And I'm reminded that this book may have been like a hasty rewriting by Lindbergh of something that a journalist had written, a reporter. I remember reading something about that in A. Scott Berg's book, which really badly needs an update with a new chapter about finding out about his bigamist second family that he kept secret in like Switzerland. All their letters he had kids from. In A. Scott Berg's book, it's just like he was making all these trips all the time. He just liked to fly to Europe. Why did he like to fly to Europe? Lindbergh is an interesting figure because he was just like the hero, golden boy of America for so long. But then he was a Nazi sympathizer during World War II. And he had like a whole anthropological chapter where he was hanging out with uncontacted tribes. Wrote a book about, he's a strange figure, but his life spans so much of the 20th century. And that Berg book really did get me into knowing about him. This one ends with a quote. I was trying to find where it switches from first to third, but like the book is so fragile. I'm like, I should probably be careful how I handle this. After all, the greater was behind. The young fellow's keeping his own head when millions hailed him as a hero, when all the women lost their hearts to him, and when decorations were pinned on his coat by admiring governments. Lindbergh had the world at his feet, and he blushed like a girl. More modest bearing, a more unaffected presence, a manlier, kindlier, simpler character no idol of the multitude ever displayed. Never was America prouder of a son. I woke that afternoon a little stiff but well rested, into a life which could hardly have been more amazing if I had landed on another planet instead of at Paris. The welcome I received at La Bourget was only a forerunner to the welcome extended by France, by Belgium, by England, and through messages by all of Europe. It was a welcome which words of appreciation are incompetent to cover. But the account of my experiences abroad, of my homecoming to the United States, and of my gratitude to the people of Europe and America belongs to a different story. Now we're in past tense again. Yeah, I think these would be a really interesting pair of books to read and make comparisons between. That's why I own them. But I had that big Lindbergh kick after I read the Berg book. Read several books about him. Then, moved on to other things. But I think I will read these two together sometime. I love a slipcover. Adventures of the Mind. It's nasty, weird, gross damage. I don't know what's up with that. The overall cumulative texture is kind of cool. Adventures of the Mind from the Saturday Evening Post. Who's this fellow? Benjamin Franklin? This is only a 1959 book. It's still pretty old. It seems in pretty good shape. An evolutionist looks at modern man, Lauren Isley. The Riddle of Life, The Lost Dimension in Religion. Oppenheimer, The Mystery of Matter. Aldous Huxley, Drugs That Shape Men's Minds. Schlesinger Jr., The Decline of Heroes. Fred Hoyle, When Time Began. He's one of the big opponents to the Big Bang Theory. Early on, named it. Einstein's Great Idea, The Expanding Mental Universe, The Case for Abstract Art from Clement Greenberg. Oh, I should read this book. The Curse of Conformity. I bet this book would actually enlighten me. Yeah, I'll read this sometime. Why not? All right, I admit I got this for the cover. A novel about the romances of Lady Hamilton and her one great love. When I first picked it up, I was hoping it was Emma by Jane Austen, but it's about Lord Nelson. Turbulent novel based on the life and loves of Josephine, the Creole beauty who captivated the most powerful man in the world. Oh wait, this is about a different book. The Emperor's Lady. This was in here. I'm just here for the love story. Enemies to lovers, forced proximity, second chance, friends to lovers, only one bed, destined to be, fake dating, opposites attract, love triangle, best friend, sibling, girl next door, reformed rake, grump plus sunshine, love at first sight, forbidden love. We'll keep for now, but this may end up just a display item. If I give Montaigne his own shelf space, which I might, gave away most of my CDs to my daughter Anodyne, so I'm going to have a free shelf that I want to put single nonfiction authors like I've done with the fiction ones in that room. Montaigne's in here. Harvard Classics. They used to say if you read that whole Harvard Classics 5-foot shelf of books, you'd have a Harvard education. Why not? Try it out. Veritas. Truth. Hey. What's up? Volume 32. Wait, French, German, and Italian. Literary and philosophical essays. Montaigne. Introductory note. Binding's a little loose on this. Good old Montaigne. Ventured the essay, writing in his tower with his cats. Here he is talking of books. Bookus. The Poetry of the Celtic Races. Okay, this one snuck into my collection recently. I don't know where it came from exactly. Smoking Flax and Other Poems by John Wright Follett. To my dear friend and teacher, Mrs. Sarah from Lily Gants. Guerra, I guess. Huh. There's still people that look like that. But no one else is reading this collection of poems right now. Another 1936 book. A distinct moment. Dedicated to my mother and to my students. Interesting to start your book about poetry with a little essay about poetry and how it works. That's neat. The Redwood Prophets. To my hills in spring and to my hills in summer. I love thee, distant hills, guard of the west. It matters not in what choice garment dressed. When springtime wraps thee in her veil of green, lest working miracles she might be seen, I find thee in thy resurrection hour, and faith springs up to see such wondrous power. Well, we'll see if I keep this. This one might be the coolest antique book I own. Set aside how the end spine looks. This is by Prescott, who the town in Arizona is named after, a very famous historian. Prescott, Arizona is a pretty big town in farther north Arizona now. My old roommate was from there. And look, this is also from an Indiana school library. Property of Johnson, County of Brown, Rules and Regulations. No volume must be retained by the same family for a longer period than 60 days. Look at this tattery leather cover. I mean, it's old. This is obviously some water damage, but you know, when something's over 170 years old, you take what you can get. 1854. Cortez. But printed in written in 1843. Might be really interesting to read this. 1854. Wow. It kind of stinks. What does that smell? Doesn't smell like mold or anything, but must. It smells musty. I don't think anything's active. Like there's no like black mold or anything in here. It's probably got a lot of history in it that people aren't familiar with much these days. Oh, I know Prescott's books are still in print usually, I think. Whoa. Love it. This one and two others in the collection came from a garage sale that my first wife went to years ago. Did worms eat the leather on this cover? Long ago, maybe 100 years ago. Some others. This could be one of the very oldest paperbacks I own. Got this because it has a mention of Carl Taylor, the journalist, in it. It just happened to be one of the oldest paperbacks. Before the journalist Carl Taylor came to New Mexico, he was all over the Philippines. Maybe not before, in between New Mexico stays. He was all about the Philippines, documenting the flagellant sects of the Philippines that had also been seeded by Spain. SEEDED. There's a fun little research project rabbit hole someone could find out about the Wilson Boulevard Christian Church Missionary Guild. All these numbered people. These are all people that were going to read it. Eleanor Piggott read it. Selma Pennington. Virginia Assine. There's a Pennington at the school I'm at right now. Property of the Women's Counselor, Wilson Boulevard Christian Church. Friendship Press. Carabao is a kind of boat, I believe. So is a clipper. So I've actually got older paperbacks than this, like that Conrad Richter one. This is only 1941. Why do I think this was so old? We dedicate this book to our Philippine-born daughters, Mary and Joy. You remember the Philippines were seized under Theodore Roosevelt, became an American protectorate. Yeah, and somewhere in this book is mentioned this New Mexico writer, Carl Taylor. Pretty cool. Oh, here's one of the best old writing books that I got. A Study of Prose Fiction. What a cool thing. The mechanisms of prose is something that's written about surprisingly little in an accessible way, you know. A good book is the best of friends, the same today and forever. Martin F. Tupper. Book plates were really more of a thing back in the day. It shows that books were a valuable possession that people had. Ugh, I hate water staining, but Nathaniel Hawthorne. I've got a book of yours in my car waiting to give to your descendant who works at a Kiva Juice. But I just went to that Kiva Juice and they said he's not there anymore, so I don't know when I'll ever get it to him. Got his number in my phone. I'll just call him. The aim of this book is to discuss the outlines of the art of prose fiction. It was first published in 1902 and has been reprinted so often that I have no excuse for any errors of fact which it may still contain. 1920 copies. So this is still a 105-year-old book. Some old underlining in it. Good topics. This might be a cool book to go through chapter by chapter and look at, see what good advice it still has. That could be a video series, maybe. Look through some really old writing books, get their advice. Just how pretty and compact and solid old books feel. Love it. It's just like an object. It declares itself. John Hersey's Hiroshima. Pretty old, but not actually the first edition of it, because that would be a whole issue of the New Yorker. That's how it was first published. With the cover that didn't fit it too well, if I recall correctly. But I have this, and I've read this copy a couple of times. Belonged to my dad's adopted dad, Charles Smith, the brother of his real dad, in Inglewood, California, back in the day. My dad wrote in a 1970s essay article that it's appropriate that his house was later destroyed by a freeway because of all the damage that cars did to their family. That guy, Charles Smith, and his wife both died in a horrible car fire, trapped in their car with another couple. And this is a really powerful book. I have a paperback version of this also, but I prefer this original version because structurally it just makes more sense the way the chapters are put together. The paperback updating version adds new chapters, and the whole symmetry and the layout of how it's written, it's kind of sabotaged. Not that that's the point of Hiroshima. It's about the horrors of the atomic bomb, but 1946. I mean, this is fresh. I went to the Atomic Museum here in Albuquerque once with my friend Ty, right after we had taken Gerald Wiesner's Literature of the Atomic Bomb class. There was so much misinformation about Hiroshima. One of the docents there grabbed us, and when we were looking at the Hiroshima exhibit, as if to like correct the record, he's all, yeah, but we dropped leaflets on it before to warn everybody to get out. I'm like, no, that's just from the Jimmy Stewart movie about it. That's complete propaganda and not true. The U.S. thought about doing that, but didn't because they thought that Japan might move prisoners of war into the areas about to be bombed. So that's not true. Maybe it helped you sleep at night. But a lot of the structure of this book is really cool in the way that it moves each person that it features chapter by chapter. It gets closer and closer to the epicenter of the blast. I think that pattern swerves a little bit as it goes on, but in general, that's how it moves. This is a fascinating and unforgettable book of horrors. Should probably be repopularized so that we're just getting farther and farther from the damage of nuclear war and nuclear bombs and nuclear testing, nuclear everything. And people are forgetting just how dangerous and horrible this stuff can be. All right, I think I have to break this video off here and go pick up a child in need of picking up from a friend's house. My daughter, Sonora, not just some random kid, don't worry. Finish these up in the next video. Looked at those, we even looked at those. Anyway, books are amazing. All right, take care, everybody. Talk to you soon. Thanks for watching, etc. Glad to know you're all out there. Thanks for your cool comments there. Appreciate them all. Later, folks.